Hello again and welcome back to our course on PowerPoint 2013. In this section we're going to actually look at a slideshow. Now I'm going to do the most basic version of this really. I'm going to use the same Parliament presentation that we've been working on. This is example 14 from the supplied files. First thing we're going to do is to set the slideshow up. Of course all of the preparation has been done, but when you come to actually show the slideshow you still have to decide on the day what you're going to show. I'm going to show the full presentation, not the school one. And if you look at the setup group here on the slideshow tab on the ribbon, you can see some of the options that are immediately visible. For instance, if I don't want to use automated timings and I don't want to play back a narration, I can uncheck those. Media controls relate to using and playing audio and video clips. I don't need those at the moment, they aren't there anyway, but I might as well switch them off. So straight away I know this is going to be a manual presentation and I'm going to be working through it manually, which is exactly the way I want to do it. So let's now set up the slideshow. Check the settings. Presented by a speaker full screen, yes. I don't want to loop continuously. I do want to show it without narration because I'm going to control this myself, and I don't want to show it without animation. The pen color is currently red. I'm going to keep it at red, and the laser pointer color is also red. I'm going to keep that at red. All slides. I'm going to operate this one manually, and don't worry about presenter view and slideshow monitor automatic at the moment. I'll come back to those later. So the settings are ready. And all I need to do now is to start the slideshow. With starting the slideshow, I'm going into slideshow view, which is the only view we haven't looked at so far in any detail. Slideshow view occupies the whole screen basically, so there are a limited amount of controls visible, although there are some. And the main choice you have when you go into starting a slideshow is on the left of the ribbon here. Do you want to start from the beginning, or do you want to start from the currently selected slide? Let's start from the beginning. Now as the slideshow starts I get my first transition. Now to click through, there are a number of ways of doing this. The simplest way is just to click with the mouse. And as you click through you get the transitions. I've basically got these wiping up. And let's look at some of the other things we can do while the slideshow is in progress. Now there are a whole range of keyboard shortcuts that you can use. You can use the arrow keys to go backwards and forwards, so left arrow generally takes you back through the presentation, right arrow generally takes you forward through the presentation. And you can also use certain keyboard shortcuts such as N for the next slide, P for the previous. Don't forget, when you're talking about next and previous, in the case of animations it will be the next animation. Now if you're dealing with an automatic presentation you would stop or restart it using the S key, and you can display a shortcut menu. Keyboard shortcut for that is Shift and F10. Now that gives you a short menu at the top where you can end the show, you can get help, you can reset pointer options and so on. So having that menu can be pretty useful when you're part way through a presentation. Another way of stepping through the slides is to press Enter for next and to press backspace for previous. If you want to go to a particular slide you can literally type the number. Say I wanted to go to slide 6, I could type 6, press enter, and it would take me to slide 6. Now let's look at how to use the laser pointer. Now to use the laser pointer you hold the control key down and use the left mouse button, and with that you can point at any point on the presentation. So for instance if I click from here into the pie chart, hold the control key down, left mouse key, and I can point at one of the slices in the pie. Now the other way of bringing that menu up is to right click somewhere on the slide. From there you can choose from pointer options. Laser pointer we've already seen, but you could also select pen, and then with the left mouse key held down you can actually write on a slide. Takes a little bit of practice, but again that can be very effective in a presentation. Including with that we have an option for an eraser. So if I want to rub out what I've written, that's pretty straightforward as well. If you make ink annotations during a presentation, when you close down the presentation you're given the option of keeping them, and they actually become part of your presentation. So I think we've covered the main points there. When you finish with the presentation, usually the way that people end it is to press the escape key. And that brings you back into normal view in PowerPoint 2013. Now, a couple of sections ago when we started looking at preparation, I talked about the way that people present PowerPoint presentations. We talked about the paper-only version, but we've just looked at what I suppose you might think of as the traditional computer-based version, where basically maybe a very small group of people would gather around a computer screen or a laptop screen and watch somebody going through a PowerPoint presentation in much the way we just have, maybe using right and left arrow keys to go through it, maybe able to highlight certain things, bring up a menu, skip a slide or two, and so on. And even when people started plugging monitors into PCs and letting the audience look at the monitor while the person driving the presentation sat at the PC, it was very often the case that the person doing the presentation was looking at exactly the same thing as the audience. But now we have something called presenter view. And in presenter view, the person doing the presentation can see a lot more and a lot more useful information than the audience can. So what I want to do now is to show you presenter view in action. Now of course I can't really show you the full story because I can't show you two monitors at once. But the setup that I've got now is basically that I'll have a PC where I'm running presenter view, or I will be in a moment anyway. And I have an external monitor, think of it as a very big projection screen, and on that I'm basically going to have slideshow view. Normally I go onto the slideshow tab now to start this presentation. Let's go back to slide 1. You can always go into slideshow view in the same way that you go into the other views using one of the buttons at the right hand end of the status bar. So let's just go down there, there's a button there, click on that slideshow button, the one that looks a bit like a projector standing on a little stand. Let's go into slideshow view. Now I'm back into slideshow view now, and I did mention earlier on that there are actually some little controls in slideshow view, and you need to look down here towards the bottom left and you'll see a little row of buttons. They're fairly grey, quite difficult to see, but you've got a left button and a right button. There's another one which will bring up laser pointer pen and highlighter settings. There's another one here which will show you all of the slides. There's another one that zooms in, I'll talk about that in a moment, but the one on the right with the 3 dots can take you into presenter view. So if I say show presenter view, I will see presenter view on the screen. Now you'll have to believe me about this, but while presenter view is on the screen, the slideshow itself is on the monitor, the one that the audience can see. Now in presenter view I have many useful options available to me. Let's start on the right. I have my notes over here, so I can actually read my notes. While I'm sitting there stepping my way through the presentation, I can be reading my notes. I also have the pens. I pointed out the pen and laser pointer tools options just now. If I click on that, I can for instance say, well, I want the highlighter, and then I could maybe highlight something on a slide. Now I also have a zoom into slide option here, which gives me a little sort of rectangle that I can zoom in somewhere on the slide, choose the part I want to focus on, click, that's zoomed in, and then click again on the magnifier to click out again. Now the 3 dots here lets me hide presenter view, in which case I will go back to slideshow view, and I also have options here like help and end show. If I want to put a black screen on the monitor that the audience can see. Click on black screen there to do that. But I can still read my notes and I can still work out what I want to do next. That could possibly include going to one of the other slides. Now there are a couple of other very useful things that I have in Presenter View. The top left I have a Show Taskbar option, which will let me see my Windows taskbar at the bottom in case I need to do anything particular like run another program to check something. I also have a Display Settings button, and amongst the options there is Swap Presenter View and Slideshow. So if in fact when I start this all up I find that they're the wrong way round, so that I can see the slideshow and the audience can see Presenter View, then I can figure my way around switching those back again. I can also set this particular display to just duplicate the slideshow. And then the ever important End Slideshow at the top here as well. And finally, down at the bottom here, I've got some little buttons I can use to make the text of my notes larger or smaller, to make them easier to read if necessary, particularly if I'm, say, in a room with bad light. So that's Presenter View. It's a great way when you're in a crowded room, big presentation, big monitor display with the audience watching it. You can see a lot more of what's going on and control what's going on, and the audience will only ever see what's in slideshow view. So you should be in a position now to give your presentation. You need to make sure that everything's ready, that it's all spell checked, grammar checked, you've got your transitions in place, etc. If you're just running through it on paper, make sure that the handouts are all prepared. If you're presenting it electronically, then make sure that you know how to use Presenter View if you have two alternative devices, one to run it from and one to display it on. And of course, if at any stage you are parting company with a copy of your PowerPoint presentation, don't forget to make sure that it's as secure as you need it to be. For example, as we've seen, make sure that you've removed any personal information that you don't want in it, and make sure that you've removed your presenter notes if that's what you intend to do. In terms of actually giving the presentation, if you're giving it manually, as I said, Presenter View is great, but you may have decided to record it, including recording a narration. If that's the case, then when you play the slideshow, make sure that you've got options like play narrations here set, and you'll sit back and enjoy other people watching your slideshow, either with you there or with you not there. So that's it on giving a presentation. I'll see you in the next section.